organizations have said, well, do I buy the software first or do I develop the process first? It's like the cart before the horse. If I don't have the process, I don't have the rigor to get the data into a software system. If I don't have the software system, they ask the question, am I going to have to redesign my process once I get it to match what the software has to offer? And so what we're really seeing is a need for organizations to get the software and the services at least some level together so that they have an integrated solution for their PPM methodology.
So when you use the term services, you're saying professional services within your company to set up the software and get it rolling forward?
To some extent, yes. Professional services and software implementation is one aspect of it, but what we also see is a big need for training in organizations. So a lot of organizations say, my project managers aren't mature enough, they're not trained enough to appropriately use the software. They need more training and expertise before they're ready. And this is where PMPs and a PMO can really help to raise the level of awareness and kind of maturity with the project managers within an organization. So that's one big area that we see. Also, organizations that don't have process. So a lot of organizations feel like my project managers aren't going to be able to get the data into the system because they don't know what to input. We don't have a process when they start their projects through the project completion for what information needs to get in. So there's a lot of different angles, if you will, in terms of what that means in terms of services.
So since you're going,
sorry, go ahead.
Since you're going in at the upper level of the management structure, this is really being implemented top down when you go when they decide to take the services and begin the training process.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we're talking about software and services together. You're typically coming in at a higher level of the organization. Now, PMOs are at different levels of the organization. PMOs typically are going to be most effective when they're at that CXO level kind of implementation. But we do see the need for PMOs at a lower level, and then it is maybe more of a bottoms-up approach in terms of focusing maybe on the project management aspect first before you really dive into the portfolio and the process and things like that. But I think it does depend, but that's a really good point. Did you have a question in the back?
Yeah, is WorkLenz ITIL certified?
It is not ITIL certified. We have customers who use it for ITIL support, but that's not necessarily our focus area. Yes?
So with WorkLenz and the idea behind PMO Central, you could have a fully developed training model for new PMs to onboard them and indoctrinate them into your PMO, and then only activate every time you actually bring on a new PM.
Exactly. And so part of what PMO Central offers is training where project managers can log into an online learning center. They can watch computer-based training. They can sign up for docent-led virtual classes on different subject areas. So if they're need a class in risk management, if they need a class in earned value because they've never had to apply earned value to a project before. Those are the kinds of things that are available with the offering. And so the idea is that an organization might not have a training group or a training organization within that can train the project managers, but this is a lower cost alternative to building up that organization and hiring 10 trainers to train all of your project managers and keep them up to date. One of the things that we also do is that we're a registered education provider. So if you're a PMP, which I'm sure a lot of you are, when you take the training that's offered through PMO Central, you get your PDUs for it. So that's one of the nice things too, that's a perk for organizations because that's something that, as project managers we have to think about and worry about. One of the things that's really interesting is that when organizations come to our website and they're just doing Google searches and talking about project management and doing searches, the #1 search criteria that gets people to our website is, what is a PMO? So it's really surprising, but it's true. And I think that there's a lot of discussion out there and a lot of questions about what is the true function of a PMO. Is it a policy setting organization? Is it an extension of the project management organization? There's a lot of questions about that. So one of the things that we've done to try and answer that question in kind of a fun and different way is to develop these, what we call them is the PMO Central comic. And this is part of it, and I'm going to pass out a couple of them so you can take a look at it, but it's a lighthearted, different way of explaining a somewhat of a complex concept in a fun and exciting way. So we use the idea of a Dr. Metier here who's explaining what a PMO is and what the value of a PMO is. And so we're really trying to innovatively explain kind of this complex concept of a project management organization and what value it provides. So we'll pass them around, take a look. If you have questions, you can ask us, but we've gotten a good response to it so far. I don't know if anyone is familiar with Google Chrome and what they did when they came out with Google Chrome, but they had a similar kind of thing, so we think it's kind of a fun new marketing take and something that we're doing. Okay, so trend number 1 was software and services integrated. Trend number 2 is transparency. So especially here in Washington, D.C., there's a lot going on with transparency of the new administration. A couple of the things that we see as trends in this area. Number 1, the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. There is a lot going on right now with the funding of ARA funds. And we're seeing that there's going to be a big push in terms of how organizations that are getting ARA funding have to report back to the Office of Management and Budget and to us as the public. So a lot of this information is going to be made publicly available in ways that it hasn't been made before. There's also the idea of this IT web dashboard, which is new. And what this is going to do for the first time is make information that's submitted for IT projects and investments across the government available not only to all of the different agencies, but also to the public. So there's going to be a new level of transparency and data sharing that's required across the government agencies. In the private sector, we're seeing a big push for more executive dashboards and reporting, and I think that in your earlier session there was a lot of talk about this topic. So I think we can really see that this is one area in terms of the private sector where the same, although it's applied differently, the same kind of trend of transparency is really taking effect. So what I have here is just a couple of screenshots. These are examples of some of the types of reports that we're producing today to support our funding and initiatives. And so what we really see is that this is one of the trends here in the public sector that that is going to be a hot topic, I think, especially as the new administration keeps moving forward with some of their initiatives and some of their requirements. And so agencies are going to have to find ways to meet these requirements and with a high level of data integrity provide this information back to the public and back to Congress and the administration.
Just a question on that slide, that CA, is that just associated with the tab?
That was actually an example of a report that the state of California produces out of our tool that goes onto their website that's publicly available, so that was what that was. This is an example of one of our dashboards that has information like scheduling, risk, and top issues, and schedule trend information available in one primary dashboard. So when we talked about commercial organizations and what they're really looking for, they're looking for a higher level of integrity in the data that's being reported and a consistent framework for how that's reported in a more automated fashion. So this is just one example of what a dashboard view could look like that provides that information. Okay.